Internet, and welcome to another episode of My Cool Friends. If this is your first time joining us, first let me say hello. How are you? We go live every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't you worry, there's punch and cookies on your way in through the door. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special guest for you today. He is the sensei of all ages of martial arts. He is the spearhead of Kicks Media Productions. If you are thrown off by the fact that his name is just Kicks, don't worry, that is his martial arts name. I was thrown off by that too, and he is here to present all of his wisdom to us. And just in the brief backstage conversation, I am super, super excited for this. He just came back, and let me just tell you guys, like, he has some fantastic events coming up, and he is here to tell us all about it and what the spirit of martial arts means to him. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm introduction for Brent J. Crisci.
Hey, wow. Man, I don't know if I can live up to that introduction, man. That guy sounds awesome. I want to hear from him.
Welcome to the show, Mr.
Oh,
Kicks.
thank you so much for inviting me, my friend.
It is a pleasure to have you here today. How are you doing on this fine evening?
I'm doing great. I'm good and getting better, as my friends say. I'm actually on the road as usual, so I'm coming to you from my home state, Connecticut. My national team, KICKSUSA, we have an event. We're fighting tomorrow at the XL Open, so I am doing the show from the road and loving it.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a first. We have a first. Hotel Wi-Fi that actually works. We have a first.
I made sure I backed it up too, because yes, hotel Wi-Fi can be troublesome.
Brent, first question of the evening that I am excited to jump into with you. You are the spearhead of Kicks Media Productions. And we touched on a little bit before the show went live to all the internets that you've been doing this for 25 years. What got you into the publishing space?
Well, my training and the cost and the time it took me to travel. I've been doing the study of the martial arts, practicing for 40 years this year. So it's been an amazing journey. But early on, there wasn't a lot of books available or any videos. And I would drive to Boston with my Kung Fu instructor, into Rhode Island with my Kempo instructor, New Jersey for my Jiu-Jitsu instructor. And week after week, I would have to drive, try to take notes. And I noticed that a lot of people didn't have access to those training abilities. So I thought, two of my instructors are really were trendsetters. Bruce Chutnick started filming instructional videos back in the 80s. Soki Michael D. Pasquale had the first martial arts interactive group chat. When AOL first came out, Michael D. Pasquale Enterprises launched the Martial Arts Worldwide Network. I remember it well. In the early 90s, I was a guest chat room host. And so this was pioneer, but it was very limited. So I thought if there was a central way. So 25 years ago, I spent a bunch of money and got people who knew more than I did about computers and filming. And I put together Kicks Media Productions, which was just kind of like a hub for people who wanted to study various styles or learn about various instructors. And they could get, back then it was videos, VHS, or books on the subjects. And here we are 25 years later. We own now 350 different instructional titles on DVDs alone in 8 different styles. So yeah, I hope that that's allowed not just my students, but martial arts people in general to get access to knowledge that they couldn't before. So that's kind of what started it all.
Wow. And like keep in mind, like, I know what you're referencing when you say VHS, where like those days.
I hope I didn't lose
actually
too many of the younger viewers out there. It was a cassette that we used to make videos on.
Yeah, like you actually. Now we have the DVR where just machines
Right.
record
It
our
went right
shows
from
for.
DVD. Now it's all digitized and stored in huge banks.
Yeah, and like segueing off of this, like almost everyone I know, like it feels like has a Twitch channel. But back in like the VHS days, you're saying like, oh hey, let's produce some of this so it can go out there to the masses and help more people like learn martial arts. Was there ever either like an external voice in the form of another person or an internal voice in your own internal self that thought like, hey, maybe this won't quite work? Was there ever that moment?
Yeah, some of what I call, I am now old school. I'm called old school in the martial arts community because I do things the way I learned 40 years ago. But when I was coming up, some of the older school instructors, the traditions, they were all secrets in the arts. So you wouldn't want to expose the masses to these secrets. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I wasn't allowed to ask questions. And my first karate instructor, my weapon instructor, Fumio Demura, the real Mr. Miyagi, that was actually did the martial arts in the Karate Kid film series. We couldn't speak during class. It was considered rude and disrespectful. So it was hard to get information back and forth. So at that time, some people gave me a lot of resistance about showing the general public. Lucky I did have some really forward-thinking instructors like Bruce Chutnick on the West Coast, Michael DePasquale Jr. on the East Coast that looked ahead and thought, if we want the arts to grow, we can't keep doing them like they did them in Asia. They can't be this secret society. We need to get it out there and get people involved. And I'm so lucky I had those people. But yeah, I did take some negative resistance, we'll call it at the time, from some old school instructors that felt I was maybe betraying those secrets of the Orient.
Betraying the scroll.
Yes, so that was a little older school thinking. I like to think that I outgrew that myself.
And I'm sure there's like so many out there that are grateful that you did.
I hope so. I've been able to touch a lot of people through martial arts for various reasons. They benefited, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue into our next question, which is we touched a little bit on this before the show, which is, what does martial arts mean to you? It can mean so many to different people.
Well, yeah, that's a great question, Ben, and a big one. And the challenge, honestly, is that answer for me, at least, has changed dramatically. When I started when I was 12 years old, formal training, and one of my first starts was ninjutsu, the art of the ninja, back in that was actually back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I got into it because I loved weapons, and they got to use cool weapons. Not the most noble story to tell people about my beginnings, but that's what did it. They had swords and throwing stars and knives and it was cool. So that's what lured me into it. And I wanted to, learn all that stuff. And then I met my first Kempo teacher from Hawaii, Robert Ho. And I had a bit of a temper when I was young, Italian temper. I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. I got in some scraps, and my parents were concerned. And the martial arts under Robert Ho gave me a way to first control that temper, and then later on a way not to get angry about things. So the meaning changed in that I wanted to share that. It gave so much to me. I wanted to teach. I also wanted to do it as a sport. And my teachers didn't do it as a sport. So that's another place I faced resistance early on. My instructors, karate is not a sport. It's not a sport. It's a way of life. And that was what they told me. And I kind of bucked my instructor. And I started doing tournaments in 1985. And I started kickboxing, did open tournaments, and I loved it. And so I started studying with the people who could teach me what I needed to succeed in that. So the martial arts then in my 20s meant winning. I studied with Superfoot Bill Wallace, since 1984. He's been a great source and guide, kickboxing coach, one of the best ever. And because of him and some others, in 1997, I got a spot on the U.S. team. I got invited to the Pan American Games, and I won my first medal, a silver medal in the first event.
Congratulations.
So from 97 full-time to 2007, I competed for the U.S. team. I also did demonstrations for the U.S. on the team in China, Russia, Korea. I got to see the world. And the martial arts then started to mean a means of travel. And so I've taught the military my whole life. My dad was a veteran, my late father, my instructor was a veteran. I didn't want to get shot at when I traveled around the world if I could help it. So I found a way for people to pay for my trips around the world without getting shot at. So I thought I was pretty smart. But yeah, seriously, that became a large meaning of traveling and learning. I got to go to the Shaolin Temple where Kung Fu was created and train with the monks. I made 3 trips, pilgrimage to China, and that was like a kid's dream. You know, I grew up watching Kung Fu TV series, and then I was there in China at the temple. So again, the meaning changed, and then I became a coach, and I saw the changes, positive changes it can make in kids' lives, and how it could redirect them and help them with issues like I had, anger issues. And my meaning really shifted to giving back to the arts and helping others benefit. And that's kind of been the last 20 years or so of my teaching. And my mission is to pass the torch because I've seen, man, it's been great. It's been a great ride for me. It's not over it yet, but it's so great to see the kids prosper and change and grow. So I hope that at least touches on 40 years of meaning as the time progressed. It has definitely changed a lot for me.
Yeah, and what an amazing journey it's been. And you're continuing that journey, not like I can see like that meaning go through like both your publishing, through the retro way of publishing, and through books, and both through this event that you're going to have coming up as well.
Yeah, we're going. I'm so happy. The Martial Arts Association, Martial Arts Industry Association, Maya, is hosting the Super Show. So there's still time to get involved. If you're watching out there, you want to train with the best martial artist in the world, we're all going to meet in Las Vegas the 3rd week of July. We'll be in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace. It'll be a 3-day event, and all the greats, they bring them all in. And we do business training. We do martial arts training. I've had a great time, and we've missed it due to COVID. The last 2 years have been canceled. We did it virtually, but it's not the same. So I am very excited to get out to Vegas again and hang with all my friends and learn and share. Be a great time.
And how would you say it's different from like being in person and getting this experience?
Well,
versus...
like I said, it took a while for me to convert to this type of forum. But I also a friend of mine, Dave Kovar, teaches martial arts instructors how to be better teachers. He's a great guy. I've known him pretty much my whole life. And he asked me something. He said, Kyoshi, a couple of years ago now, how often do you touch the students you're teaching in class now? And I thought about it. I said, what do you mean? He said, how often do you touch the groups of the class? I said, very rarely do I touch a student anymore. I have black belt assistants. If I want to demonstrate a technique, I demonstrate it on the black belt, because if I hurt the students, they quit. They run away. So, and I don't want to hurt anybody that I don't know well. So my black belt's been with me for years. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, if I'm not touching them in the dojo and they're learning, then I could probably not touch them via this method. Now, of course, it's great to have the hands-on and to experience it, but you definitely can learn a lot through new methods. And you can access people that you, like I said, I used to drive to Boston for Yao Li, Professor Nick Serra down in Rhode Island. That was a lot of time and a lot of money. A lot of people didn't have the time or energy to do that. Now they don't have to. Now they can go to these group events. Like my instructor in California runs the Gathering. We're celebrating year 40 this year. in October. We'll be in Reno, Nevada this year. He moves around. So you can train through his video program. And now this guy, he's older than me, my teacher, but he does FaceTime lessons now. I was amazed. What a pioneer. He's, 60 plus years old doing FaceTime to teach. And then they come to the live event and follow up with him. So, yeah, I definitely think, this is a whole new era and we should embrace it. We shouldn't be scared of it. We shouldn't put it down. It has a place in martial arts instructions. It'll never be a substitute for, hands-on. It's a great combination. So definitely, I'm pretty positive about it. I'm pretty motivated to the future.
It feels very similar to like what you described, where like people were very hesitant to like put stuff on video, and now people were very hesitant to like have a live event like that.
And you see that. I'm sure you've seen it and with YouTube and the technology, and we're on a whole different forum of sharing now. I'm very proud of myself because during the COVID, within a week, all of my dojos had access to Zoom classes. Within a week of the pandemic and everybody being locked down, I set up Zoom sites and I ran 4 classes a day live for the different age groups on Zoom for 3 months. And I had never heard of Zoom before that. So I got to know it and I did it and I've done it. And now newer and more technically challenging forums for me are available. But I try to embrace it, and I try to laugh at my mistakes and my no sound or no video lessons I gave not knowing it, or how to get that little square in the corner to get bigger. That was a big Zoom challenge for me personally, as I was always this big on the screen and I couldn't see what I was doing. So my younger black belts have been awesome and patient, helping me as my technical advisors. But I do pretty good for an old kick in the head guy.
And is there any sort of parallel, like we're talking about like learning technology hurdles? Is there any sort of parallel that you felt between like overcoming like technology hurdles and like learning how to get past this like Zoom barrier, as opposed to like learning new like martial arts barriers?
Yeah, I tell you, there is. And I mean, I got down here early to the hotel. The pool was under repair. So I usually do an hour in the pool, stretch out, do my katas. And so instead I watched Rocky 3, and which every Rocky is a great martial arts movie, in my opinion. There's the challenge, the bad thing that's happened, and the video training montage. And he adapts and he overcomes. In this one, he has to fight with a different style to win. So yeah, that's been my whole life. I think that's why I'm still here, and I'm enjoying martial arts. I've seen some friends of mine, unfortunately, that wouldn't adjust with the times at all. They felt they were selling out, and so they lost their dojos, they lost their students. And I said, well, you held true to your values, but at what cost? What good is the art that you preserved if you're not teaching it to anybody now? Right. So I've tried to make sure that even physically, my instructor literally, it was like a bad movie. When I was young, he had me kick trees to kill the nerves in my shins so I could block with my shins without feeling pain. Now that also destroys your shins. I can't run. I haven't been able to run. I get shin splints since then. Or for about $17, you can buy a pair of shin pads. It'll do the exact same thing. So though I didn't do it, all of my fighters wear shin pads now so they can take them off afterwards and enjoy running still. To me, that's a great evolution in the arts. We didn't teach young kids. The youngest kid that I taught when I started was 12 years old. That was the youngest. We didn't have a lot of those. And then people like Melody Schumann launched a little ninjas craze. And she was teaching 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And I thought, how do they learn martial arts? And then my goddaughter was 2 years old at the time. And my aunt told her she was going to start gymnastics. And I thought, how does a 2-year-old do gymnastics? They can't do. So I went to the class. Well, they didn't do gymnastics the way we see it in the Olympics, but they did the parachute and they spun the baton and they got a really great start. And that's what we've done for the martial arts. We're not doing full contact kickboxing with the 8-year-olds. Wouldn't be good for them. but we've adjusted our teachings so that they can benefit and grow into great black belts,
The
junior and
fundamentals.
senior. So I'm very proud that in my United Martial Arts Academies, blatant plug for my organization, I did learn a few things over the years. That no, my instructors have been adaptable. They've, some have been with me for 20, even 30 years now. So things have changed a lot in the age groups, in the contact level, and they've adjusted. They've grown so that they can still benefit the student, because that's who's important. The
Right.
students are the ones that keep us going, that keeps the arts going. So I'm proud of all of them for the way they have evolved and adapted, and I've tried to lead by example most of the time.
Wow, that's commendable, I must say.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, truly. With all what I want to stay in this topic of change.
Sure.
So whenever you see something like this, see something different, see something evolving, like you say, like, hey, let's try that. Like how do you know when it's a good moment to say, like, hey, let's try that, or hey, let's keep
I
staying with
think
tradition?
You have to be hard-headed and stubborn. You have to have a pretty healthy ego. In my experience, at least, is I've seen things have gone, and boy, I've been wrong. I'm glad you're asking me about the things that I've succeeded at, the things that have gone well, because we could spend hours on. I had this great idea. I saw this, and it failed miserably. I lost a lot of money. One of my famous examples is I did the first martial arts tournament on a cruise ship. I partnered with Carnival Cruise Lines in 1998. I did the Battle on the Open Seas. It sounded like a great idea.
Sounds like a good idea.
My instructors had done seminars on cruise ships. So I launched Battle on the Open Seas, and it was a great idea. And I lost my shirt because it doesn't cost that much to drive a couple of states, stay at the hotel, and do a tournament. But cruises are expensive. And if you've got to bring the family of 4 or 6 on the cruise for your kid to compete, it might be $8,000. And I didn't think about that. So we had a great time, but we had, I think, about 68 competitors total. We were hoping for about 500. So I tried it, and of course, times change. So in 2015, I tried it again, and it did just as well, or just as poorly. But we had a great time. So I'm out of the cruise ship tournament business forever, but you don't know until you try. So
Right.
I think that, I've looked at it and gone, I don't know, you got to try. The founder of my art, Kempo, was a man named Daruma. The art was founded in Shaolin, and the founder had a phrase that he would say in the morning, a mantra, and at night, every day of his life. And I've done that too. The phrase is to fall 7 times and to rise 8, life begins now. And I've kind of lived by that in both my personal and business. Hey, sometimes it's going to fail. It might be a great idea at the wrong time or the wrong place or with the wrong people. It's not important. As long as you try again, you get up that 8th time, you're going to keep going. Actually, Sylvester Stallone borrowed that Japanese Cohen. He's been said for many years as a Rocky character, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up again. That's an old Japanese Cohen, but it's a great one, a great one to live by. So I've kind of taken that into effect in how I choose, like you said, what do I think I'm going to try as a good idea? I do it. Sometimes I get knocked down, then I get back up again. As long as I'm getting back up, I'm winning.
There's have you seen the Matrix movies?
I have. Yeah, we just got taken. They took me to the recent one.
Now, I haven't seen the recent one yet.
No spoiler alerts, but it's all people I don't recognize.
Okay.
They had a lot of new actors in there. So.
But the reason why I bring it up is because that quote reminds me of the third Matrix movie where they're at the climax and Neo and Agent Smith are fighting, and Neo's on the ground, and he asks, like, why do you do it, Mr. Anderson? Why do you keep fighting? And the answer that he gives back to him is, because I choose to.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, I love the Matrix series. There was some really mystical type fighting that they did, but it
Mm-hmm.
inspired students.
Right.
But can I learn to do that? I'm like, well, you could do something like that. I think there might be some special effects involved, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So yeah, that is it's a choice and a commitment. And my experience and my hope is that those lessons leave the students off the mat as well, so they can
Right.
take that to their schooling, to their personal life, to their business. It doesn't just apply to the ring or to the tournament circuit. It applies to life, really.
Yeah. Do you have, like, you we've touched on this a lot, like you educate a lot of young students. Is there any, like, besides the Matrix, is there any, like, other sort of, like, pieces of media that they've said, like, oh yeah, I'm here because I've been
Well,
inspired by
this came
XYZ?
up. This came up last week in my black belt club class. I assume all my students have seen the Karate Kid series movies from 1984 forward. I make jokes from it, and last week I did a little show of hands, and only about four of the entire group had seen the original Karate Kid. Uh,
Four out of how
Two
many?
of them had seen the Will Smith Jr. version with Jackie Chan, and I thought, my gosh, I gave him homework. You need to watch that. It's a timeless classic. So if you guys out there watching haven't seen the Karate Kid, I think it's free on every channel. TBS runs it 24/7 still, I think. But yeah, it's a great series. There's one I love to mention because it's kind of a cult classic. It was actually written for Bruce Lee by Bruce Lee and Sterling Silliphant, and it was called the originally called The Silent Flu. Bruce Lee died. They renamed it Circle of Iron, and it starred David Carradine as one of the leads. And Bruce Lee was not alive to play the role, but it's a really, really cool film for young people. Circle of Iron had some real interesting, like that Rodney star from the Planet of the Apes. I forget his last name. He was in it. There's a classical actor, Eli Wallach, sat in a bowl of oil in this film and did a cameo appearance. So a really unique film, Circle of Iron, but really great. And like I said, it might be missed by the mainstream media. So those would be my I guess video recommendations. We'll call them. 2 thumbs
Yeah.
up. That's right. I'm
I,
quoting Siskel and Ebert now. Another sign of age. I think that.
I've seen the modern, the Will Smith Karate Kid. And I've seen the original Karate Kid. I've seen, like, clips of it on TV, but I've never sat down to
Well,
watch it
it's
in its
coming.
entirety.
Cobra Kai has done a great job of reuniting us from the original Karate Kid era and introducing the Karate Kid characters to a new generation. So
Yeah,
definitely, I was part of the launch for when Sony TV had it of the
I th-
original series Cobra Kai, and we had a great time. What
yeah,
a fun, and it's really taken off. Obviously, they're heading into season 5 now, so that's kind of like you were talking about generations. It adapted, and
hmm
here's a whole new generation. I hate to say it, but almost 40 years later, enjoying those characters and that plot theme continuing. So that's kind of
yeah.
cool.
I thought you were gonna the answer I was sort of, like, interested to know is that, like, I've always gotten the feeling that, like, a lot of people have gotten into, like, working out and into martial arts because of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, you know what? That's a little after my time, obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's been a lot of inspirations. I did my demonstration team, Kicks USA. We did the openings at all the theaters when the Mulan cartoon film came out, and it
hmm
was amazing the calls we got after that at our dojos because of that cartoon film. It really inspired kids, and even you know what? I loved it, Kung Fu Panda. It was
Yes.
silly, but it had a great message. And we had young people coming into the dojos after watching that. So, yeah, I think it all generates interest. It's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. It is there any sort of, like, like, message that you would want to, like, like you've done a lot of like publishing, and you've done a lot of like oh hey, this is like, I think that's the most special thing, is that, like, when you publish something like this has the
It's your
possibility to,
baby.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like this will live on beyond me. But like, what, like, is there any sort of message that you would want to like give to like the next generation of like
You know what?
senseis?
It's probably the same message I got from my great teachers. Uh, don't worry about the haters. Don't worry about the naysayers. If
Right.
you've got a passion for it and you believe in it and you want to share it, then you go for it. Zig Ziglar, my late mentor, said that about writing books. I put off my own books. I published everybody else's books and sold them, but I was hesitant to put my name on one. And then, well, it's been about 20 years now. I wrote the ABCs of Martial Arts, just kind of a general introduction. And I had a blast. And, you know, I didn't sell 1,000,000 copies, but I sold a whole bunch. And those people, so that would be my advice, is that, you know, there's going to a lot of people tell you can't do it. It's not going to work. You shouldn't try it. Don't listen to them. Those people aren't winners. Okay.
Right.
You got to, you know, like I said, you got to have a passion for it. You got to believe in it. And if you go for it, you won't regret it, win or lose. You really won't.
Right. Well, we touched on a little bit before the show that we both did wrestling in high school. Um, and I remember before like I would ever go out onto a match, onto the mat, like I would always have a conversation in my head before a fight in order to like get myself psyched up. Like, all right, what's my
Absolutely.
game plan? What's my strategy? Do you ever do anything like that where like you have to get
Yeah,
yourself
when
into a
I
mental?
was on the U.S. team and later coaching, the advice was when you're ringside, there can be no room for any negative thoughts, no regrets. Everything at that point is zen. You
Mhm.
can't practice anymore. You can't change any of the things you did. So to have any negative thoughts is self-defeating. So
Mhm.
that prep ringside, we tell them always it's all positive. I'm as ready as I can be. I'm going to give it the best I can. I'm going to leave everything in that ring. That's my promise to myself. So whether I leave with the gold medal or no medal, I can leave with my head held high. So that's it. You've got to just be in the moment, give it 110%. And again, you won't have any regrets. Okay. If you don't win that day, you'll have the fuel to train to win the next time.
And how do you go ringside per se in your business side of your life?
Well, again, the children thing. I mean, like I said, the age group, my dojo was primarily all adults when I started, and now it's probably 80% children. So I've had to adapt the way I teach, what I teach. Um, and it's the same too with advertising. You know,
Right.
my successful businesses were Trimark and Valpen coupon mailers for many years. I don't
The
even know if the listeners know what those are now, but
you
clearly
mean
that's not
snail
how you
mail?
promote your business today. Now we're doing Google Analytics and Facebook ads and live streaming and blogs. So if you're going to be successful in the martial arts business, you adapt. And as Tony Robbins, he's been my mentor for 30 years now.
Wow.
You find people who have already succeeded at doing what you want to be good at, and you mimic them. You follow
Mhm.
them around. You find out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then you do it. And you know what? It works great. At least it has for me.
Wow. Yeah, we want to find those people who have already succeeded at what we're doing.
Exactly. They're great mentors, and it saves you some trial and error too.
Yeah. It's a it saves us from wondering if we can host a tournament
Right.
on
Exactly.
a cruise ship.
Gives you a little more information. Yes. You all know now. Don't do that. Don't do it. Trust me. Don't do it.
Yeah. Are there any other, speaking of this topic, are there any other stories of trips and falls that you can share with us so we can learn from your mistakes?
Trips. Wow, there's so many to choose from in my career. Well, injury wise, we trained too hard, too much, and we didn't heal in my day. So
Oh.
I did a tour in China in the '90s, and I had, or actually Russia. I was on the professional karate league. I was top 10 in the U.S. fighting forms and weapons, and I tore my meniscus cartilage on both sides of my right knee. My doctor told me I should quit the rest of the year and heal, get some surgery. I said no. I had a brace made, and I went to China and fought. And I had my whole ACL destroyed on that trip. I came back, my meniscus and ACL were completely torn apart. They could not repair the meniscus. They did a graft for my ACL, but my knee was never the same again. And if I had taken 4 or 5 months off, I might have had years more of success with that leg than I had, or challenges that I had, if I had been a little smarter in the big picture. So when you're young and you're full of piss and vinegar, you've got to remember you know your body breaks and you got to let it heal. You got to be big picture smart. I wasn't when I was young, so I make sure my students are. I enforce them kind of taking the time they need when they need to heal, and there'll always be another fight. There'll always be another tournament. So you got to kind of remember that when you get injured.
And I know from many of my peers that like we're so big on hustle culture right now. So how do you like healthfully enforce the like, hey, today is the day to rest?
Well, I directly enforce it with the people I supervise. They sign a team contract, and in that team contract are the rules of the game for training, for competing, and because I don't want to not be able to sleep at night. And I wouldn't. If I knew a student was unnecessarily injured because I didn't put my foot down, then that would stay with me. So that's what I'm there's nothing wrong with going for it. There's nothing more than pushing. But just as like I said, Tony Robbins, all those guys will equally tell you how important it is to recharge your battery, to take the time you need for your spiritual self, for your family. You know, there's a difference between hustling and workaholic. I know I jump roped that line for several years. I had a heart attack from the stress. They literally, my blood pressures were fine. My numbers were fine, had a full heart attack. And they said it was stress induced because I was just pushing too hard, too often. So you gotta have balance. I think there's another great lesson from Miyagi in the Karate Kid. Balance is key, to quote him. And it really is in all aspects.
Yeah, it's that. I think of that very spiritual, like yin yang forces. That
absolutely, it's a great example.
Where can people find you online, and also more importantly, where can people find you in person?
In person, well, in person, I'm in Connecticut right now. I'll be at the XL Open in Connecticut tomorrow. I'm based out of Maine now. I grew up in Connecticut. But my dojo chain is in northern New England. I'm UnitedDojos.com. It's probably the easiest and most central to remember. KickSUSA, Kicks Media Pro is the website company, the media company. But I'm for an old karate guy, I'm pretty accessible. I'm on Instagram at KicksUSA888. I'm on Facebook under my own name. So yeah, you can reach out, and I check it every day, and I may not follow up immediately like I didn't with you, but you guys in Silhouette persisted, and you caught up with me when I was in Atlantic City, and we moved the date. So I'm glad we can make this happen. So yeah, just reach out. I'd be happy to share anything I can to benefit.
And is that website, where can people find your 300 plus
kicksmediapro.com will get them the information. We have a Squarespace, I think it's called, Squarespace site under Kicks Media Productions as well. And then an eBay store, Kicks USA. We've been on eBay since it started. So yeah, I try to get it out there in any way I can.
Awesome. You heard it here. He has a Squarespace website, and he's on eBay where you can find all of those amazing things. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Kicks. Go see him in Las Vegas.
Yes. Come on down.
Did you hear that, producer? He's going to be in Las Vegas Go and see him. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another amazing episode of My Cool Friends. I have thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and best of luck to you
Thank
in
you,
your
sir.
show.
Thank you, my friend. Great time.
And on your mission to spread the word and spread your wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week for another amazing episode of My Cool Friends. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic weekend.